Toxic masculinity has taught Benny not to cry, because crying is for little girls and Benny doesn't want other people to think that he's a little girl, so he suppresses his emotions whenever he gets them. But then, Benny starts hanging out with the SJWs, and the SJWs tell Benny, society has brainwashed you because it's toxic masculinity and suppressing your emotions is actually a bad thing and you should learn to cry. That's going to be much better for you. So Benny is like, well, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm gonna give that a try. And Benny goes up to his girlfriend and he is like, honey, I have something to say. I'm going to open up about my feelings. And so Benny starts crying his heart out and he starts talking about all his insecurities and doubts in life. And his girlfriend's like, oh shit, what's going on with Benny? And eventually she says, you know, Benny, I think it's cool that you're opening up about your feelings, but you know what? I actually think that you're a bit of a loser right now. So goodbye. I'm going to leave you. I'm not attracted to you anymore. And Benny's left there, all sad, all confused. And he's thinking, what the hell? All this conflicting advice. People told me to open up about my feelings, but then she lost respect for me. What was I supposed to do? Should men cry? Should men open up about their feelings or not? Now, if I were to give one big answer to this question, it would be ask different questions. This is a stupid question. It's not as simple. It's not as black and white. It's not about whether you should be allowed to cry or not. It's somewhere in the middle. You should do a certain amount of crying. Not too much, not too little. There's a specific right amount of crying that men should do, but really you shouldn't worry about how much you are allowed to cry. You should really think more about the underlying things of what are going on. First of all, this is very important, I want to say this. In this example, I spoke about the SJWs, telling Benny that he should express his feelings. It's really not just the SJWs. There are a lot of people, including a lot of wise people, that try to promote the idea of expressing your feelings. One of them is Mark Manson, a famous writer. In his book, I think it was Models, he has like an entire chapter talking about how vulnerability is strength. I just wanted to make this first point. I agree with that. Think about it. So many people are making the mistake when they are suppressing their emotions, when they're holding back their emotions, of being afraid of what other people think of them. That's the reason they hide their feelings, right? They have to cry. They feel like they want to cry because they are sad, but they don't cry because they are afraid that other people will think that they are weak. Think about it. Think about what is really going on. You are essentially afraid of what other people think of you, other people's opinions of you. It is literally being insecure about other people's opinions of you, which is the opposite of strength, right? That's the irony. People think that they don't want to show their emotions because they don't want to seem weak, but really what they are doing is that they are being afraid of other people's opinions of them, which is like 100 fucking times weaker than expressing your emotions. So no, don't suppress your emotions or hold back your emotions just because you're afraid of what other people think of you, but to a certain extent, don't be afraid of showing your emotions. Yes, there is a lot of strength in vulnerability and being able to show your emotions. The SJWs, they were right, to a certain extent. And again, it's really not just the SJWs. There are a lot of people that promote this idea that there is strength in vulnerability and that suppressing your emotions is a bad thing. Yes, that's true. But this is the thing. A lot of people, especially the SJWs, I'm going to talk about the SJWs again. I guess I'm going to have to stop doing that because it's a dumb generalization. But a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that this means that you should be overly emotional. They lose the nuance. They think, oh, it's a bad thing to not show emotions, so it must be a good thing to show all of your emotions all of the time. No. You see, being overly emotional isn't really a good thing either, because being overly emotional sort of implies that you aren't that mentally strong. You aren't that mentally resilient. Because the truth is, if you are mentally resilient, you don't have to express your emotions all of the time to everyone. You don't constantly need other people's validation to deal with your own emotions. And now I'm not saying that there aren't situations where we are dealing with some serious things and that we could actually use help, maybe professional help even. But what I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of smaller situations that we face in life. Most of the smaller emotional fluctuations that we deal with on a daily basis, even on like a somewhat larger scale, but most of the minor emotions that we feel are things that we should be able to deal with ourselves without needing the validation of other people. For example, my girlfriend might ask me something like, hey, is something wrong? Because girls can see that if something's wrong. It's like they have like a magical radar. They are secrets. They have social secrets. They can see that. And I might reply something like, no, it's no big deal. And she's like, yeah, I can see something's wrong. You want to talk about it? And I'll just honestly tell her, well, yeah, something's wrong. I'm feeling bad, but no, I don't want to talk about it. Because why? Why would I want to talk about it? And I mean it. You see, I'm not suppressing my emotions at that moment. I am not saying that I don't want to talk about it because I'm afraid that my girlfriend is going to think that I'm weak. I'm saying that I don't want to talk about it because I genuinely don't see how that's going to help me. Something small happened in my life. Yes, I'm feeling a little bit bad. Sometimes that happens. So what? I'm feeling a little bit bad right now. Things will be fine eventually. I don't need to cry about it. I don't need to talk about it. How the hell is that going to help me? And I think this is exactly why people tend to lose respect and attraction for other people if they are overly emotional, because it sort of implies that they cannot deal with these small things themselves. It sort of shows your true colors. If someone is very overly emotional about everything all of the time, it tells other people the truth that you aren't that mentally resilient. You cannot deal with it yourself. You cannot take care of yourself. And this is exactly where other people's instincts get triggered and they start to think, whoa, this person is a bit of a weakling. And they start to lose respect for you, especially women. Because women, they sort of like want a guy that is strong in life, right? A guy that is emotionally resilient and all of that. And so whenever you start to go full Benny mode and open up to your girlfriend about all your insecurities and all your doubts, and you keep crying all the time about how you're not sure if your life's going to turn out fine, she's going to lose attraction for you because she thinks that you are weak, because you are weak. You see, that's the thing. Most of the time, when people lose respect or attraction for you when you're opening up about your feelings, it is not the fact that you are opening up that people lose respect for, but it is what you are opening up about that people lose respect for. If, for example, something happens in my life and I feel a little bit bad about it, and I go up to my girlfriend and my reaction is something like this. I cry and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if things are going to be all right. This happened and I feel so bad about it. And oh my God, I'm insecure about my future now and I don't know what to do about it. And I really don't know if things are going to be all right. My girlfriend is going to think, he doesn't know how to deal with the situation. He can't take care of himself. How the hell is he supposed to take care of me and my children? That's what she's going to think, right? But what if the same thing happens, but I deal with it in a different way? I go up to my girlfriend and my girlfriend's like, hey, you feeling bad? And I'm like, yeah, yes, this thing happened. And yes, I'm feeling really bad about it. It really sucks that this happened. Feeling horrible right now. But you know what? That happens sometimes in life. As part of life, sometimes you feel like shit. Eventually, things will be fine. In the long term, I will be fine. I'm just feeling a little bit bad right now. If that is my way of dealing with it, and it's genuine, I'm not lying about it, but I genuinely believe that things will be fine in the long term, my girlfriend's going to think, wow, this guy, this is one of the guys that is not afraid to open up about his feelings. What all the girls always say that they want. And this is someone that is actually mentally stable enough, strong enough to deal with life. This is a guy that I'm attracted to. Do you see the difference? In both situations, the same thing happens that make me feel bad. In both situations, I opened up about my feelings. But in situation A, my girlfriend thought, oh fuck, and lost attraction for me. And in situation B, my girlfriend thought, wow, I really like this guy. This is a very sensitive and at the same time strong, attractive guy. And so I'm going to say it again. It is not the fact that you are opening up that is the problem, but it is what you are opening up about that is the problem. Think of it like this. If you are a complete loser, I'm just going to use a very unnuanced example right now, but if you are a complete loser and you open up about your feelings, you are essentially opening up about the fact that you are a loser. Up until now, you've been hiding the fact that you are a loser from your girlfriend. You've been pretending to be tough, while deep down inside you weren't tough at all. You were very, very mentally unstable and insecure, and you weren't sure if your life was going to turn out fine. But you've been hiding that. You were pretending that you were strong, and then suddenly people started to convince you that you should open up about your feelings, and you were like, okay, that makes sense. And then you started to open up about your feelings, but really, your feelings were that you were a loser. Now you are opening up the fact that you are a loser, and then suddenly your girlfriend or other people, your friends and your family, start to lose respect for you. But it's not because you opened up, it's because you actually were a loser and you've been hiding that from them up until all this time. And so if we get back to like the big question, should men cry or not? Should men open up about their feelings or not? I'd say that is the wrong question. It's not about whether you should be allowed to cry or not. The real question should be, what is going on inside of me? Because problems are real. You might be a loser. You might be dealing with some very bad mental stuff. Those are the real questions you should be asking yourself. What is going on inside of me? And how do I deal with that to the best I can? And to a certain extent, and I'm going to have to be very careful with saying this because, again, serious problems are real, but to a certain extent, for a lot of people, this means just learning to deal with it yourself. Because people always make the mistake of choosing one of the extremes, right? They choose either suppressing the emotions, or they choose being overly emotional about it and being dependent on other people's validation. And so because you choose one of these two extremes, either denying your emotions or throwing your emotions out there all of the time and expecting other people to help you, we never really learn to deal with our own problems. We never really learn to be stoic and to actually be mentally resilient. And so I think that for a lot of people, they could really, really benefit from trying to become mentally stronger yourself, trying to become more mentally resilient, trying to become more stoic, and just generally dealing with your own problems yourself. Definitely don't hold back your emotions because you are afraid of what other people are going to think of you. That is just weakness in itself. There's a very strong irony in that. Don't be overly emotional either. Don't cry about everything to everyone whenever you feel like it. But just largely learn to deal with your problems yourself. Become more mentally resilient. That being said though, again, serious problems are real. If you are dealing with serious problems, don't take my advice out of context and think, well, Rob told me to deal with it myself. No, get help. If you really need help, get help. Share this video with a friend that could use it.